All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back again, and this time to prove people wrong again, because that's what we have to do in order to educate people. They just don't want to understand, and it's okay. That's fine. You want to ask questions, there's no problem with that, but be open to making sure you know that I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you what's true and what's not. Um, Especially when it comes to topics like this, when it comes to layouts and stuff like that. The one topic there, or the one comment I want to address is this one. It says, I've never seen so much double speak in all my life. First, watch any radical throwbot video with the same ball with two different layouts and both balls clearly move differently on the lanes. A complete novice could see the difference. Second, you contradict yourself several times in the video alone. You said a different layout will affect the way a ball will go through the pins, but layouts don't matter. Lastly, just say what you really mean. League bowlers don't matter to you. Blah. That comment is ridiculous. Um, and it just doesn't make any sense. And I'll prove that here in a minute. But first, I want to address this other comment. This one is an actual comment where they're trying to learn and understand. This is how you should ask questions. This is fine. When you talk 7-inch and 3.5-inch pin, I have no idea. Are you saying the distance from the pin? I'm going to measure mine. Feel like mine is probably close to that 3-inch. What I don't want you to do is think that it's the pin distance from the pin to the CG. I mean, that is the pin distance of the ball. That is not the pin distance of your layout. The pin distance we're talking about, you have to know your positive axis point in order to actually understand what your pin distance is. So you have to go find that. So go to your Pro Shop operator, figure out what that is. You cannot figure out what your layout is without knowing what your Pro Shop operator or what your PAP is. So go get that first. But yes, the pin to PAP distance is what we're talking about. So whatever your PAP is, that dot, that little spot, the distance that the pin is from there is the distance of the pin that we're talking about. So that's why I say, a half an inch, you're not going to see a difference. The difference you're going to see in layout, you would have to have a pretty dramatic difference, 2-3 inch difference between those. Most of the time, most people, especially the league bowlers, are pretty much getting bowling balls drilled basically the same way. Even if it's pin up or pin down, the pin distance is basically the same. All you're really manipulating is how strong it is to the friction. So the most of that reaction comes how it goes through the pins. It's those last 10 feet at most where you may see slight differences. But again, the majority, like mass majority, 99% of bowlers, you wouldn't be able to notice it from the naked eye. And I'm going to prove that. But that's where this comment comes into play, saying, I've never seen so much doublespeak. Watch any throwbot video. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to watch a throwbot video. And I did happen to overlay them for you. But first, let's watch and see shot from shot, and then you'll see the overlay. Let's watch it. This is the pin down version. You can see that shot. Here's the pin up version. And here's the overlay. Now, where's the difference? Now, of course, you can see them kind of blur a little bit at the very end because the pin up one is going to start to make a little bit stronger motion off once it gets to the friction. That friction is what matters, the back of the pattern. On that fresh pattern, they didn't separate until the back of the pattern. That's what I'm talking about. Into the naked eye, again, watch both of them. You're telling me you can see a difference from this shot before the pins to this shot before the pins? You could see that one went higher flush. The second one went higher flush because it made just a pinch difference down lane. You can't see that with your naked eye in competition and whatnot, at least not most bowlers. That's what we're talking about. So the layout really doesn't make that big of a difference. Again, most of it is friction. It's how the ball responds to friction. So let's watch it again. Tell me when you see the layover, how much that actually blurs. What, an inch? When you see it, here it comes right here. Where's it change? Past those markers down there. So past the markers on the lane is when you can finally start to see a pinch of separation between those bowling balls. So you want to sit here and try to act like these balls are clearly different when they're clearly not. So I don't know what to tell you anymore with this. I mean, this is the second time I've did this type of thing where I laid the video on top of each other, and you could see that there's really no difference, very, very slight difference in those bowling balls. But people want to act like, oh my gosh, if I go pin down versus pin up, that one's going to outhook the other by a million. Well, sure, on specto data, it looks like it's actually creating more friction, which, yeah, there may be a difference in specto, but again, to the naked eye, none of this matters for the bowler. None of this matters for a regular league bowler who's bowling in league, where their ball isn't going to see friction until the back part of the lane, or if they throw it dead to the dry anyway. Now, you start getting on sport patterns where the better bowlers generally are bowling, yes, then those layouts are going to make a big difference, which is why some of the reviews that I do, you'll see them on some of the tougher patterns. You'll see them on a flatter pattern, and you'll be able to get to see the difference between bowling balls. But I use the same layout on the bowling balls so you can see the difference from ball to ball. The difference is mostly in the cover stocks, not so much in the core, because you're putting the cores in basically the same position. You're seeing all the same thing. So if I start putting cores, like somebody made a comment about how, well, if layouts don't matter, why did you need to go from your 4.5 to 5.5 inch pins from motive? Flare potential. That's it. I just needed to see a little bit of difference in flare potential because I wanted them to stop basically quitting down lane on me. The stronger layouts made them roll too quick for me and get out of when it got out of friction, it got too forward. So the ball would never have the right entry angle going through the pins. All of a sudden, I go with a less flare potential type of layout or a longer pin distance, and all of a sudden the bowling balls store a little bit better energy. Did that make them visually different on the lanes? No, not at all. But it did make them different going through the pins. That's where the difference is. So I have to specify this over and over again. The difference with layouts is mostly at the pins. Everything you want to change, if your ball's not hooking enough, it's generally not because of the layout. It could be because maybe a pro shop operator didn't find your PAP and they accidentally put a 2-inch pin layout on it, which I know, the bowling science fans are going to love those short pin layouts. I don't think they're good for 99% of bowlers, unless you like to play dead in the dry, just perfectly straight up the right side of the lane. They're not going to be good for most players. So short pin layouts, not generally a very good idea. So I wouldn't recommend those to most people. I still believe urethane is a better option. It's just more controllable, more predictable. Short pin layouts, every time I've ever tried them, they give me too much over under. That's just the way I see it. My ball either overreacts or underreacts because now it's just literally all of the cover taking over. You're laying the core down to where it's in its roll phase already. It's already on its axis. I mean, now you're just solely depending on the cover, so you don't get that extra little help down lane at the pins. And I know everybody's going to say, but the layout doesn't matter. I never say the layout doesn't matter at all. I say the layout is the least important thing. And if you're a league bowler, why are you so worried about the layout, thinking that the layout is going to make you all of a sudden 10 to 15 pins better? It's just not. It really isn't. Now, you come to a pro shop that actually knows what the heck they're doing. They're going to make sure they have at least a really close layout that matches your style of game. That's where layouts are important, is making sure it matches your style of game, not for tweaking until you get to a level where they're actually important at tweaking certain things. So somebody that's a 210 average with a 4.5-inch pin ball or a 3.5-inch pin ball, max flare, basically, you're not going to change the way they play the lanes and do anything fancy for them by making it a 4.5-inch pin all of a sudden. They're not going to see a difference. Their ball will look like it's flaring different. It's going to flare less. You're going to see the flare rings a little bit closer together, which essentially is just going to make it to where it's almost a little bit less friction. Not really less friction, but it's going to do slight differences down lane. Again, nothing that's important when it comes to the naked eye. When you're watching the bowling balls go down the lane, you can't see the difference. I'll play it for you again. That's the pin down one, and then the pin up one. And this is on the new conspiracy. Slight difference down lane, but it doesn't blur until after it gets past those markers down there. So where does the layout somehow make the ball hook earlier? It has nothing to do with that. It's the friction. So once it sees friction. Now, what I will say is if the lanes are burned up and beat up, that's when layouts are a little bit more important. I'll give you that. I'll absolutely say that. The ball, how it reacts through the friction, layout can be important. So if you're in a place that has a super, super high friction and there's barely any oil on the lane and you're creating motion right away, yeah, generally you're going to go to use a weaker cover bowling ball. But then you can actually manipulate things a little bit with your layout. But again, still not a lot that you're going to see with the naked eye. It's still going to be mostly how it goes to the pin. So there you go. That's that. One more time. Here you go. Just watch it again. Pin down, then pin up. And then you get to see the overlay. And you see no separation until nearly at the pins. What was the difference in the layouts? 40 by 4.25 by 75. 70 by 3.5 by 20. So not only is the pin down layout a longer pin with a bigger third angle, the pin up ball is a shorter pin, more closer to max flare pin with a lower third angle, so more responsive to friction, which is exactly why that ball at the back of the pattern, once it gets to the friction, makes a little bit stronger motion going through the pins. Again, just proving my point. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to comment, like below. I love teaching people about this stuff because it is very important. I know I can come off as snarky and whatever you want to call it, but when I get comments like this one here, it does it just annoys me. I mean, it's just frustrating to see comments like that, and then they think I'm not going to respond because they think I have to be politically correct. I don't. I mean, I'm being nice right now because this is how I am. But if it kept up and keeps going, I don't stay nice. But anyway, hope you all learned. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you guys later.